Isaiah 11:24-27 says, "Surely as I have planned, so it will be. As I have purposed, so it will stand. The plan determined, ... For the Lord Almighty has purposed, and who can thwart him? His hand is stretched out, and who can turn it back?" Psalm 33, verse 11, "The plans of the Lord stand firm forever, the purposes of his heart through all generations." That undergirding foundational sense that God is sovereign and God has our back. He has got it. Whatever the season, he is Lord. But there are practical ways, I believe, we can facilitate, encourage, and nurture revival. We can't twist his arm. By praying more, having more faith that God will move. In fact, our own experience is he often comes to the rescue when we're at our absolute limit, our absolute end. And he shows up in places others have sniffed at. We come from Shilbottle. And every now and then has a passion play. And they actually substituted the words, "Does anything good come from Nazareth?" with, "Does anything good come from Shilbottle?" You know. So I really know that God heard that. God heard that. And I know he's going to show up in Shilbottle just to go, "Booyah." And all the upside down thinking that actually is the wrong way up and the Lord's right way up that Kevin, was it you, Kevin, that declared that? Upside downness of the Lord. 2 Chronicles 29 to chapter 29 to chapter 31 is a record of a revival as Hezekiah came into power as king of Judah. It's on the display board there on the first day, actually not just the first month of his reign, in the first year of his reign. On the first day, he opened the temple doors and ordered the clear out of the rubbish. It involved a heart change, the rededication of the temple. I believe that's a major push of what the Lord is stirring up. So those chapters, I believe, are a record of revival worth exploring. Chapter 29 to chapter 31 of 2 Chronicles. He then called the people who should have been into position. The Ascension Gifts people decided to declare that they were Ascension Gifts people and didn't carry on calling themselves pastors. Pastor this, pastor that, pastor. Was our in-joke at home, as we had lasagna or whatever in the morning, at Sunday lunch. Called into position, proper understanding, and ordering of gifting is what he's calling us into. Calling into our proper location. I believe, even if we hadn't understood ourselves as being in our proper location, actually, I've got news for you. God blew that Holy Spirit dandelion seed out of you and landed you where you are right now, embedded you. Dandelions are a thorough nuisance to gardeners. I can't believe my parents allowed me to blow dandelion clocks as a kid. It looks random. John 3:8 says we're like that. You don't know where they come from? Goodness, who do you think you are? Where have you come from? What are you doing here? But God has positioned that blowing has some detailed precision about it. So there's this wonderful synergy today, which I believe the Lord wants to reflect, so that we don't have church leader meetings and other meetings, and we're all in our little layers, worship leaders, prayer people doing their thing in a corner somewhere, pouring oil over Earl Grey statues, whatever you want to do. We have a wonderful cross-fertilization. It's fantastic. So there's this calling positioning. There's a generous invitation that goes out. Hezekiah declared a Passover like there'd never been any Passover for years. And people came with all the grub, all the food, and laid it out. Everybody, actually, they were so busy, they were blundering and not doing the right thing at the right time. But the Lord, they just said, "Sorry, Lord." And the Lord heard their prayer because he was so pleased to see them come out the woodwork and start celebrating together what the Lord had done. So lots of joy and lots of food. A spirit of generosity. A spirit of generosity. I think that's part of the reason why we're here today and not in a church hall somewhere. Then, just as a few clues here, they kept going. They weren't put off by the reaction of some of the people in those chapters I'm talking about. There was sneering and scoffing from some. And some of the priests that hadn't bothered finally got off the backsides. I'm not knocking Anglican priests here, Alice. It's all right. You can get off the floor now, love. We understand. But, some of them hadn't bothered to get themselves cleaned up, to do the job they were supposed to do. And in the end, they got shamed into it. A bit like the Billy... Oh dear, I better be careful here. The Billy Graham crusade in 1956, finally after the Queen had a cup of tea with Billy Graham, the archbishops or whatever finally decided to show up at the stadium. If the Queen can have a cup of tea, well, just maybe it might be all right. Flexible and open to the leading of the Spirit. We've been in mad situations. We've had crazy youth give us ideas, tell us that what we need here is a 40-day prayer and fasting. Well, there's a limit to how many of these you can do. Moses managed a couple back to back, but it's sometimes very difficult in revival situations to handle some of the crazy situations, but we do have to go beyond our reasonable brain, our mind, and allow the crazy to go on. It's very difficult for some of us to be out of control, to hold a program loosely. We are holding a program loosely this afternoon. It's brilliant. There's a difference between being orderly, because that's loving, feeding the 5,000. You don't feed the 5,000 lovingly by throwing bread off the back of a lorry. You'd have people killed in a stampede. You orderly put them in companies of 50s and hundreds. But there's a difference between that and being controlling and manipulative. But I believe that how can we facilitate and encourage and nurture revival? Well, a move of God in a transforming way. I believe it's actually by doing those things that make for a healthy, mission-minded, well-discipled church. In other words, John Wesley, when he says, the Lord's coming this afternoon, what would you do different? Nothing. I would do exactly what I'm doing right now. So there is a mandate, as it were, just to be a healthy, mission-minded, well-discipled human being, and from out of that, a healthy, mission-minded, well-discipled church. So it's not difficult to comprehend. And so my understanding of this is that we need these four things, just as a starter, on that board, to wake people up to their purpose and direction. I've put the word there, mothers and fathers. What that's a shorthand form of saying is that we need to be on a trajectory of growing up. Ephesians 3 and Ephesians 4 is God's, the Father's, parenting process. It ends with us all coming to a full maturity. Now, every parent in this room knows that we don't want our kids in nappies forever. God help us. We want them growing up to become themselves mature adults who will become themselves parents. So I believe that whether we see ourselves as mother and father figures, and I'm not talking about the whole church, we have a mandate, a calling to grow up and be mother and father figures for those people around us and those people in the community around us. There is a dysfunctional society that is aching for stability and solid figures in it. I've put communication and connection. I believe this is part of the healthy church. Good communications, connections, teams and partnerships come from a sense that we are one organically connected whole. So we need the communication going on. The body of Jesus. Even if someone says, I've no need of you, and I've met them, as Alan was saying about, there's some that have heard of me. Thank God the Lord has need of each one of us in this room. The Lord has need of us. Mary and I's calling, 2 donkeys that the Lord has need of. I'd rather be a donkey for Jesus. But know that, hear that word, I have need of you. And that's the word for each one of us in this room. So there is in that good communication and honouring of one another. Emails that I learned from the Africans, Tolu, to say, How are you? How are your family? To spend a bit of time acknowledging their humanity, not Bob, Thursday, 2 p.m. It's good to acknowledge and stir up within ourselves the sense that we belong to one another, that God is calling us into friendship and an acceptance and sharing of resources. This is so important, that the giving and sharing, that we receive as well as we give. That in Northumberland, out in the sticks, we need the resourcing bridge from some of the bigger local churches, I'll put it that way, city churches in Tyneside and Newcastle. But we need it with honouring and respect and listening to what the Lord has for the region, not sort of helicopters coming in and planting the brand. But on the other hand, I believe it goes the other way as well, that there is time out in this place, refreshment in this place for people. And then finally, deeper with Jesus, there's a bride there getting herself ready for the big day. There is a big day coming. Revelation 19, announcing an invitation to our own wedding. The bride to the bridegroom Jesus. This is a funny kind of bride. I looked and I saw the bride kind of coming down, the new Jerusalem. And the only way, it's like a corporate bride. It's like softening the edges of the word city for a minute, a network of relationships. That's what it is. A wonderful buzz and connection, full of warmth and passion and love from the Lord. And that's our destiny. That is what we're out working right now. So I believe that a healthy, mission-minded, well-discipled church will encourage a deeper personal intimacy with Jesus, so that the Spirit and the bride say within us, "Come, come," and let him who hears say, "Come." So, praise the Lord. That's my take on this. And what I'd like us to do, we're having the laminate moment now. Some of us are being Chinese, and some of us are being dining room. So most of it's a swap over, although I think one or two people may be in the same place. If you know already you've got a little one of these, and it says Chinese, in a moment, you need to head out into the other room and make yourself clear so that other people can find you. On the front of your program, it will tell you where you should be going. So Mary, for example, has got on her top of her program, it says, on Mary's, it says Chinese 5. For you, it might be dining room 3. I don't know what you've got. But right now, we're going to go into discussion groups, 3 or 4 people, and we're going to talk about what practical ways we think would facilitate and encourage and nurture revival. Now, it assumes that we can do such a thing. You might disagree, but that's what I want you to explore together for 10 minutes right now. So, see you in 10. Find your group. Move the chairs around. You're having a discussion group of about 4 people in each one.